So tell me, just before we head west, why did you settle on Nat Fyfe at 1?
What is he, 6'3" in the old, 6'4" in the old, plays midfield. There's a lot of players, not a lot, there's a handful of players I think have got an attitude for the ball, like very few players. He's one of them. He's a contested ball piece. You know I like that, Jared. And the new rules will be interesting to see who stands up further this year. But he's an animal at the ball. He's brave. His ability to mark the ball going forward makes him a really dangerous player that way. Before he got injured, before he got suspended last year, I think I can recall Nathan Fyfe might have been leading the Brownlow about round 12, round 13. When he's best on ground, he's best on ground by a long, long way. And I just love the way he goes about it.
Shall we run some of this past him?
Yeah.
I think we should. In 2015, he was the undisputed champion, the Brownlow medalist admired for his courage and his skill. He's endured interruptions and a team downturn, but he stands poised to lead the Fremantle resurgence. And with it, perhaps return to the mantle as the best player in the game. Nat Fyfe, Fremantle have done us the duty, the honour of just nudging the team meeting back. So really? They are waiting and he is standing by. Nat Fyfe, welcome to AFL360.
Evening, Jared. Evening, Robbo.
How grand an honour is it to be number one in Robbo's list?
It's very flattering. I was a little surprised, to be honest, given that I missed the last couple of games last year, and I'm sure there's a few punters out there that would firmly disagree with Robbo, but if he keeps putting me number one, then I keep coming on this show, so I'm pretty happy.
Is there a cachet in your mind, Nat, to competing to be the best player in the game?
I think there was a couple of years ago. I sort of got a bit of ego attached to potentially being recognised as one of the best or the best player, but I can firmly say I've moved away from that. Having the honour of being a captain of a footy club, your intentions quickly change, and whilst I still want to be the best player I can, being recognised as the best player is not something that I care about so much anymore.
What about the standards that you strive for and how you've set yourself for season 2019? Do you feel like you're in a good place to play your absolute best footy individually?
Yeah, I really do. Since 2015's Brownlow medal, on paper I haven't achieved much. We haven't played in a final. I haven't won a Brownlow or an MVP. I haven't been All-Australian or won a Best and Fairest. So not that accolades are everything. But I feel since that period in 2015, I have played some of my best footy. The back end of 2017 and the first half of last year, I was playing the best footy I've ever played. And I've done a few things differently this pre-season to try and set myself up with the intention of playing 22 home and away season games and then hopefully some finals. So not so much about going after physical parameters of improvement, but more around durability and playing all season.
Nat, how's your elbow?
Yeah, my elbow's fine. I had my staples removed yesterday and I had a physical hit out on Sunday, match simulation, so nothing to worry about.
It's funny, we talk about that season when you won the Brownlow medal, and it was a glorious individual season. It's really great to hear you talk about not yourself, but what the team wants to achieve through this period. If you're getting back to your best and you played some great footy last year, what about those around you? Do you go into this season thinking, you know what, 8 games, I think it was 8 wins last year, big gap between your best and worst. How much do you think you can close that gap this year?
We're hoping that we can close it a lot. We've brought over 4 experienced players in Lobb, Hogan, Conqueror and Collier, as well as a couple of new kids in the draft. And we're hoping we can iron out some of those creases. There is going to be some ups and downs, and injuries are going to play a part in how we do go this season. But if we can keep our best players on the field, we feel we've got enough calibre to win a lot of games here at Optus Stadium and enough games on the road to be competitive towards the end of the season.
So as the number one, it's only my opinion, but as the number one, do you walk into Rossi's office and say now, because I've been voted the best player in the game, I can play where I like?
I was doing that before you voted me number one.
In all seriousness, are we going to see what we saw last year? I'd probably started the year before. You know, the real guns play midfield, do a lot of damage there. Instead of going off the ground, they go deep forward or they go one out in the square. Do you envisage you doing that this year for the Dockers?
Yeah, absolutely. We've been obviously trialling through the pre-season, the new rules, the players starting in the goal square. And what we're seeing is a more pure 4v4 midfield battle, which plays to my strengths, playing, running out the front of the square and having long penetrating entries or shots on goal. And then when you rest, you can rest out of the cage and try and make that a pure one-on-one battle. So I think the rule changes will suit players like me and Dangerfield and Martin and Paddy Cripps and the more contested beasts, and I'm hoping that's the case.
Do you think in that centre square setup, right, you're going to have whatever, 10, 12 seconds to do what you like. Do you think opposition clubs will be sending taggers in to that centre square, or will we see the best four midfielders against the best three midfielders against the opposition's best three midfielders for a lot of the game?
I think taggers will still play their part. Where there may be opportunity is that you can get away from taggers because you have to set your position. So if you pop out late, the tagger may not be able to come with you. So maybe we'll see more pure duels in there, but unfortunately I don't think the tagger's dead just yet.
Remember that night? Of course you remember it, and I just thought of it then. Remember that night in Adelaide when you and Dangerfield went head-to-head, which was fantastic by Phil Walsh. I think Walshy loved it. I think he set it up. I think Rossi let it go as well. What are your memories of that night, Nat?
It's a bit of an old war story now. It sort of grows legs year on year. But I think there was a mutual understanding between Danger and I that we were going to go head-to-head, and if I tried to get away from me, he'd come and play on me and vice versa. And it was a great contest. I think the game was only a couple of goals apart at the end, and both of us had plenty of the ball. From a spectacle point of view, I'm sure it was enthralling to watch. I think our defensive coaches probably ask a few questions around accountability, but playing, that was one of the most enjoyable games that I've played in.
The hot topic of the day is the other couple of rules that have been much debated. The restriction on the runners and the double 50-metre penalty if you don't know what you're doing. Have you formed a view on either of those as the JLT's been unfolding?
Yeah, I saw the double 50-metre penalty play out a little bit over the weekend. Jack Riewoldt milked it beautifully. I saw that one. And I think players just need to get their head around it. The rules are there for a reason, to try and make the game flow a bit better and make it better to watch. So I think players just need to get their heads around that one. And the runner rule, I saw Luke Hodges' comments around it disadvantaging younger teams or teams down the bottom of the ladder. I tend to agree with that somewhat, but again, probably need a larger sample size before making a genuine opinion on it.
All right, before we let you go, Nat, if you had to do your top 50, who would you put at number one?
Oh, it's a tough question. I think you can't really go past Danger, Buddy, sort of Dusty, and maybe Paddy Cripps, Alex Rance for the top 5 or 6, but I'm not going to be so silly as to name my number one, Robbo. Leave that to you.
Too smart. Hey, there's a team meeting waiting, so we've got to let you go. Thanks for your time tonight, Nat, and thanks for playing along.
Thanks very much, guys.
Nat Fyfe, Robbo's number one from the list today.
Don't you love the way he plays football, though?
Yeah.
Do you? I mean, you call the game.
No, I do. The game, it perfectly suited him, the evolution of it in the year that he dominated, and then we were denied him the year after.
Yeah, with the injury.
And now to hear him talk, so Adam Treloar was nearly giddy with excitement last night about what's going to happen in the centre square, but to hear him talk about being able to burst through the top of the stoppage and then go and rest in the cage and win the one-on-ones Chris Judd says the game will absolutely skew to the best players, and what a season we've got in store for that if that happens.
We were in that meeting and I used those Judd quotes today, the best players will only get better. He already, 15, that's how long Sean Burgoyne's been playing. 12 years ago, people were writing and talking about Brendan Lade to Sean Burgoyne was as good a ruck to a rover type that we have seen. I actually think Aaron Sandilands to Nathan Fyfe on the burst is as good as I've seen as well. And if they get back to that, with that space, I think Fyfe can just, he could be a wrecking ball this year.